Thursday, July 27th City Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda would be the 2017 Water Smart Landscape Awards.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Chris Smith. I'm the Superintendent of Parks, and I'm here to announce this year's Water Smart Landscape Award recipients. Each year, the Hayes Beautification Committee selects one resident and one business property that have implemented water conservation and water conservation turf and landscape practices. The principles of the program include planning and design, low water use plants, practical turf areas, efficient irrigation, soil amendment, and the use of proper mulch and routine maintenance. Each year, a list of nominations are given to the committee, and they review those based on those criteria I just mentioned, and they go and review these locations and cast a vote for what they feel is the best design and use and water conservation methods in place. This year, the 2017 residential winner is Laura Hafner. Is Laura here? There she is, yep. I forget the address, but it's on Lawrence Circle, correct?
Yes,
Is it
4412.
4412? Okay, 4412. You can come on up. We've got a plaque for you. This is a picture of Laura's front yard. She's used buffalo grass here. It's an excellent stand of buffalo grass. She's got drought tolerant or drought resistant plantings, perennial plants, and they're all low water use, and they're all basically native to this area, and they do real well in our climate. Hit the right button, nope. Here's another shot from the front. Here you can kind of see the tall grasses, switchgrass. Looks like she's got some yarrow in there and some black-eyed Susans right on there. Okay. Just a really nice lawn and a really nice design and very well designed. And it's what we're looking for. We appreciate your efforts and that you put into it.
Thank you.
Mayor Musil has a plaque for you. It's kind of heavy.
Oh my gosh.
Can you carry with those kids?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The 2017 Water Smart Landscape Award for the business category is the Great Plains Dermatology and Dr. Don Tillman. And I believe he's back here. Come on up. I don't know if you've been by his property, but it's for a business location. It is very impressive. He has implemented all kinds of water conservation efforts, and it's really nice. It's excellent landscaping, excellent choice of plants. It's wrong way. He's got buffalo grass planted throughout. Here's some of we call it the Holy Rock. It's what we have up on Vine Street, a couple of them. He's again implemented native grasses, and all these things do very well in our area. He's even this is in the back of the facility. He's got a nice stand of buffalo grass, and then he's done some with reduced mowing, which is nice, and you can see what it looks like. There's a lot of options you can do with water conservation efforts. Excellent job. Very nice.
Congratulations, Don.
And that's all I have. I'd like to thank the Hayes Beautification Committee for what they do. This is just one of their programs. They are working constantly throughout the city to make improvements wherever they can. And I think there's one representative here. They do an excellent job, and it's great working with them. Thank you.
Thank you
Chris.
all.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you for your time
impressive.
on the committee.
Well, and actually, with all the rain we've had this year, we were all enjoying all the rain, but you look around
Yeah.
now how dry it is, and stuff like this can keep your lawn going for a long time and not, use a lot of water. So we appreciate what both of you are doing.
Yeah, I love that buffalo grass.
That's beautiful.
It looks just as good as fescue. Good job.
All right, next item on the agenda, approval of the July 13 minutes. Stand as written. Next item on the agenda would be the June 2017 financial statement. Came up.
Thank you. This is the report of the financial summaries of the revenue and expenditures for the city of Hayes, month ended June 30, 2017. Revenues in June totaled $7,262,053, an increase of $1,324,197 compared to the same period as last year. Notable areas of increased revenue when we compare to June of 16, and the largest contributing factor here for increased revenues is the timing of a few transfers we had. This included transfers to the general fund and employee benefits. These happen to be completed at year end in 2016. And the only other item is water consumption for business and residential fell, a combined negative 2.42 for June as compared to the same period last year. However, month to date, water and conservation revenue were up 19,500 or 8.3% and 10.2% respectively. Year to date, total consumption is off negative 2.5, while total revenue continues up 7.95. So one item of revenue decrease. Airport Improvement Fund grants fell $250,500 due to a reimbursement received at this time last year from FAA on the 422 runway rehab. Expenditures in June totaled $4,335,452. That's an increase of $1,549,000. One couple of notable areas of increase was, of course, the transfers we talked about earlier. And then projects for Commission Capital Reserve increased $75,000 due to the approved expenditure for engineering of Allen Street to be completed in 2018. One area of decreased expenditures, new equipment reserve expenditures fell $127,150 due to the purchase of a front loader at this time last year. Month-to-date general fund sales tax collections were at $569,140. That's an increase of $11,861 or 2.13% compared to last year. Year-to-date general fund collections are at $3,504,211. That's down just a negative $13,370 or just a negative 0.38% when we compare to actuals from a year ago. So we're basically flat. Report of quarter-to-date sales tax collections by industry for classification was up $26,000 or 1.51%. And you may have noticed this report is a little different. Based on collections in 2016, the top 10 have rearranged a little bit, so you might look at that if you didn't. And then these top 10 represent 74% of the total quarter-to-date sales tax distribution. Finally, the Finance City Clerk's Office invested $5.3 million in maturing and renewing certificates with a weighted average interest rate of 1.34. The portfolio certificates of deposit on June 30 totaled $60.7 million with a weighted average interest rate of 0.97. That's up 0.43 from a year ago. Total balance in a money market account on June 30 was $700,000 with a current yield of 0.2, and total investments are up $3.9 million when compared to this time last year.
I move that we adopt the financial report as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Kim, I have a question on that solar, wind, natural gas distribution. This seems like quite a bit for that. Is there something that happened last year with that? or-
Oh, no, what, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, on the electric, solar, wind, natural gas distribution.
Oh, in the quarter-to-date
Yeah, I'm
report.
sorry, yes.
Okay. I think we talked about that last time. We figured out that Midwest Energy is doing their radio read implementation, or their
Oh,
wireless
yes.
implementation. And so a lot of their infrastructure, and I don't remember the number, but it was in the millions.
Okay,
And so that's contributing to that.
Gotcha.
I did give them a call and talk to Mike Morley.
I do remember you talking about that now. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's just 4-0. Next item would be citizen comments.
Mr. Mayor, Cassie, would you like to come forward to the podium, please? Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce to my fellow commissioners and our visitors this evening and people watching on television, the lovely Mrs. Cassie Hickle. Cassie is the current reigning Mrs. Kansas USA, and she has an amazing platform that she's going to take just a couple of minutes to tell you about. I got to know of Cassie, I guess, because of my dear friend Sarah Bloom, the director of Downtown Hayes, is a friend of Cassie's, and she shared lots with me, and then I heard her story about the amazing thing she did for someone, and I'd like her to tell you just a little bit, and also her platform. She will be representing Kansas in the Mrs. America USA, and that's in Florida in August, I think. Vegas in August. Vegas in
yes.
August. So this is Cassie Hickle.
Welcome.
Hi. Thank you all for having me.
as Sandy said, I kind of decided to do the Mrs. Kansas pageant because it's very platform-based, and I've never done pageants before, but this past December, I actually donated a kidney to a gentleman from Iowa. And so my platform is living organ donation. How that all kind of came about is a little bit crazy, I guess some might say, but I was scrolling through my Facebook in July of 2015, and one of my friends had shared Richard's story, and he just said, you know, Richard has he's in kidney failure, and he hasn't started dialysis yet, but he's O positive. He needs a living kidney donor, preferably, because the match for that is much more compatible than a deceased donor most of the time. So I saw this post and just felt led to reach out. It's kind of just a total God thing. Not something I would have done otherwise, I guess. And I had total peace about the entire situation. Went through a lot of the testing here in Hayes. He's from Iowa, and a lot of it I was able to do right here in town once it got to the point where we were double checking to make sure that my family history was fine and that I was completely compatible from the inside out. I went up to Iowa for further testing, and in October of 2016, we figured out that I was actually 98% compatible with him. And that's basically unheard of when it comes to someone who's not a family member and basically no blood relative at all. So we had surgery back in December. Both are doing super well, and I've been working with the National Kidney Foundation ever since, and they are kind of what led to me going into the Mrs. Kansas pageant. Like I said, it's very platform-based, and I've had the opportunity to share not only my story, but several other people's stories through working with the National Kidney Foundation and now as Mrs. Kansas. And I have completely appreciated the support I've received from the city of Hayes as well as the state of Kansas, and I look forward to representing you all in August.
We're very, very proud of you, Cassie. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, and good luck from all of us.
Thank you.
Best
Thank
of
you for
luck.
coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Awesome.
coming and sharing. And she doesn't wear that crown around all the time. I ask her to.
Well, I know we say this quite often, guys, but for all the negative news we hear anymore, the last couple of days, we've heard some pretty amazing things, and that just matches right there. So that's, thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much.
Cassie.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda would be the consent agenda. All items, cereal malt beverage application, Joy Sims Barbecue, and then some mayor appointments and recommendations.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, or I guess, any comments, that's what I see. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next item on the agenda, an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligation bond series 2017A.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. I have with me tonight David Arterberry, Senior Vice President with George K. Baum, Gina Rekoff, Attorney and Special Bond Counsel with Gilmore Bell, and Jen Toole, Associate with Gilmore Bell. We had a couple of bond sales today, and Dave's going to come up and speak with you a little bit about that, and then we'll get into the ordinance and resolutions needed to move that forward.
Good evening, David Arterberry again. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. As Kim mentioned, we took bids today on two different bond issues. The first bond issue was to finance some improvements to some benefit districts in town. And Kim will mention in more detail about the benefit districts. I just want to talk a little bit more specifically about the sale. You see a graph there on the screen, and this is essentially a trend of interest rates. The solid line is the tax-exempt interest rate index, and the dotted line is the index. I'm sorry, the 10-year Treasury bond rate. And on that top graph, you see the trend in rate over the last 10 years. And I guess what I'd really like to kind of point out by that, if you look at the solid line, which is the tax-exempt scale, Even though interest rates aren't at their historic low, rates were a little bit lower last year. Other than that short period of time last year, interest rates are really about the lowest they've been in the last decade. And if you went back even further than that, you'd see they're really the lowest they've been in about 30 or 40 years. So to the extent there's a good time to be borrowing money, this is about as good time as there has been historically. If you go over to the next slide, then the first series of bonds that we were selling today was the Series 17A for the benefit district projects. We ended up getting a total of 8 bids on this series, and that is a wonderful response. I have to tell you that we've been conducting a number of sales over the last few months, and this is the most bids that I have seen. I think it's a combination of the city's excellent credit quality, its excellent rating, as well as a strong market with not a lot of supply, not a lot of new issues being sold recently. So it's great to see it. The best bid was submitted by UMB Bank. And what I'd point out by that bid is if you look at the cover bid, that second bid by Country Club Bank, it was just very, very close. If you stretch that out over 15 years, that was probably only a few $1,000s difference in the two bids. I did want to mention that the bid by Country Club Bank, which was the cover bid, it did actually include, with bidding with them, the Bank of Hayes, so I thought I would mention that. But the UMB Bank bid was mathematically verified as the correct best bid, and it was they met all of the other bidding parameters and bidding conditions. So we'd recommend that you do accept the best bid by UMB Bank. That is actually what their bid ends up looking like, and I think the reason we wanted to pull this up and show you that is because when they put their bid together, they did something that's pretty common, is that they bid to purchase your bonds. They agreed to pay you the principal amount of the bond issue, but they also agreed to pay you a premium above and beyond the face value of the bonds. When that occurs, which I said is real common, what we'll typically do is use that premium to reduce your borrowing size. So we give you the money that you need, we just do it in the form of a little smaller bond issue with this premium that they pay. And in this case, what we ended up doing is, as a result of that premium, we lowered the borrowing amount from $1,610,000 to $1,490,000. So that was just in the course of resizing the issue. I do want to back up for just 1 second and mention a little bit more about that rating that you got. The city does have, as I mentioned, an excellent rating, a AA rating. There aren't many communities of your size in Kansas, other than a few small suburban communities, that have a AA rating. Kim, as well as Toby, did a very good job, and Jacob in the rating call, explaining, talking to them about the city, talking to them, to the rating agencies about the finances and your approach to it. And as a result of that, they did confirm your AA rating, and they mentioned things like the strong fund balances and liquidity that the city has, as well as low debt and strong management. So I thought that's worth mentioning, especially in a public meeting. It's worth telling you that other people view you very positively in the credit market. So I think that was about it. I think I was going to turn it back to Kim, and he could talk more particularly about these projects and
Thank you.
Thank you very
actions we've
much.
done. Or answer any questions you'd have before that.
I'm good.
Okay.
It's good news. Thank you.
So just as a quick refresher, these bonds being sold reimburse the city for improvements to 4 special assessment districts in the city. 46th Street, Second Edition, Phase 2, in the amount of $281,774.41. Kingsgate, First Edition, Phase 2, in the amount of $533,975.86. Tallgrass Edition, Phase 5, in the amount of $701,406.01. And that's the edition that we did have one prepay on. S&W Alley Paving in the amount of $67,659.42. Payments on the bonds are expected to be made from those special assessment revenues received by the city with respect to those 4 districts, with the projects being financed with the bonds. So based on Dave's presentation, on the sale results, it's necessary to approve an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance, payment, and security of general obligation bond series 2017A in the principal amount of $1,490,000. Closing and delivery date expected to be on August 15, 2017. The ordinance authorizes the bonds to be issued to reimburse the city for the improvements to the 4 special assessment districts plus the cost of issuance. It allows us to levy those special assessments as well as direct city officials and staff to execute the necessary documents to complete the sale. So there's 2 options for the commission. You can authorize the bonds to be issued or give further direction. In this case, there's not an option to do nothing because we are held by state statute to issue bonds for special assessment districts. So tonight, we recommend and would ask that you approve ordinance 3939 as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 3939 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Jacobs. Comments?
Is there any lowering of the specials then? Was your final rate of 2.33 whatever about what you thought this?
I think we were estimating about 2.8. So yes, it was about half percent lower.
Okay, so that'll benefit those.
Correct.
In the
Correct.
special
What
assessment.
they received preliminarily was their ability to prepay and what those totals would be. Now we'll go back and we'll estimate payment for them over the 15-year period,
Right.
using the correct rate.
Right, so then the prepay might actually
Be less.
get a little bit back or not so much?
No, because it was just the amount of their portion of that is
Gotcha.
the improvements to that district.
To that, right,
Yeah,
that was
correct.
part of the prepay.
Right.
Okay.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 This is 4-0. Next item on the agenda, resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation bonds, Series 2017A.
So as part of the process to sell the bonds, 17A, a resolution must be approved authorizing the sale of bonds as previously ordered by the ordinance. The resolution is lengthy. It's a detail of the bonds, including redemption, security, establishment of funds and accounts, application of bond proceeds, defaults and remedies, continuing disclosure, and other miscellaneous provisions. Again, there's 2 options. You can authorize the bonds to be issued or give us further direction. Pretty straightforward here. Staff recommends and asks for approval of Resolution 2712-12 as presented. 2017-12 as presented.
I'll make the motion, we approve Resolution 2017-012 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Myers. It's pretty straightforward. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
That's 4-0. Next item on the agenda, ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2017B. Can you talk to me?
Again, Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. I'll call Dave back up now for 2017B. We're really excited about this one.
Thank you.
Bonds get me excited too.
Okay, I've heard everything now, so. But no, I do think we have hopefully what you'll view as some good news today. In addition to the 2017A bonds for the Benefit District project, we also opened up bids for approximately $2.2 million, and I'll talk about the sizing again in a minute, of bonds, of general obligation bonds that were used to refinance the city's outstanding 2009 revenue bond issue. So we're taking the revenue bond issue and refunding it with GO bonds. Kim, in a minute, will mention the fact that you still will pay for these with utility revenues, but they do have the general obligation pledge behind them. And when we took the bids today, we ended up getting, again, the same 8 bidders on this series of bonds that we got on the last series. The result, though, was a little bit different. The first issue was a 15-year issue, and if you recall, the interest rate on that was 2.33%. And it was purchased by Commerce Bank. This was, UMB, I'm sorry. This was a shorter issue. It only went out 7 years, and the best bid actually here was submitted by Commerce Bank with a rate of 1.47, et cetera, %. And here, what is interesting about this bid to me is that in the last issue, the cover bid was very, very close. In this bid, the cover bid was actually a full tenth of a percentage point better or lower than the best bid, which tells me that Commerce Bank was very eager and very aggressive and wanted to buy these bonds. What this means in terms of the city's savings from the refinancing is all good news. When we were last here, we had estimated that the savings would be approximately $175,000. As a result of the strong bid, which generated an interest rate that was lower than we had anticipated, the final savings went up to $105,167. I think we talked a little bit about present value savings last time, and when we were here before, the present value percent was about a little over 5% savings. As a result of the strong bid, the present value savings went up to 6.2%. I think we had talked about how an acceptable sort of minimum level of savings that our industry views when doing a refinancing is about 3 to 5%. So before we were at the high end of that, now we're well over what sort of the minimum savings threshold you'd expect on a refinancing. And then finally, the principal amount of the issue, although we had estimated it at $2.2 million initially, because of the premium generated from the bid, we were able to lower that down to $2,050,000. So again, great bidding, great result, and all of the savings well exceed, I think, what you had originally anticipated. So, again, answer any questions you might have.
That is exciting news. I understand why you're excited now. That was great news, I think.
So a refresher here, these bonds are being sold to refund revenue bond series 09A. 09A was originally issued in the amount of $4.2 million. Projects funded by this issue included repair and repaint of the 1 million gallon water tower, numerous water and line improvements and upgrades throughout town, including on Canal, 22nd Street, Commerce Parkway, and Main Street, replacing filter controls and panel system at the water treatment plant, sanitary sewer improvements, trickling filter blowers and basin mixing improvements at the wastewater treatment plant, as well as replace of the boiler and biogas upgrade there, and a new high-capacity influent pump with variable frequency drives. And if you have any questions on that, hopefully Jeff can answer those, what those are.
Just to clarify, those are all things that have already been done.
Correct, yep, that's what that
Right.
original issue of
Right,
4.2
that
million
was the
funded.
Original issue,
Yes.
just so everybody understands.
Yes. So based on the results that Dave indicated here, it's now necessary again to approve an ordinance authorizing and providing for the issuance, payment, and security of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2017B, in the principal amount of $2,050,000 with a closing and delivery date, again expected on August 15, 2017. The ordinance authorizes the bonds to be issued to pay the refunding and costs of the issuance. It directs city officials and staff to execute the documents, complete the sale, and continue. It also continues to require the city to maintain utility rates sufficient enough for bond debt service. Here the options would be to authorize the bonds to be issued, give us further direction, or you could reject all those bids. We recommend and ask for approval of ordinance 3940 as presented this evening.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 3940 as presented.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Meyer. I guess my first thought on that is, yes, that is something we've already done, but hopefully with that savings, we can continue our aggressive approach to fix infrastructure in the near future. So that's great news for us. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
This is 4-0. Next item on the agenda, resolution prescribing the form and details of and authorizing and directing the sale and delivery of general obligation refunding bonds series 2017B.
As part of this process, again, to sell bonds 2017B, a resolution must be approved authorizing the sale of bonds that previously ordered by the ordinance. The resolution, again, is lengthy. It details bonds including redemption, security, establishment of funds and accounts, application of the bond proceeds, defaults and remedies, and continuing disclosure and other miscellaneous provisions. There, again, are three options here. Authorize us to issue the bonds, give further direction, or do nothing. We would recommend and ask for approval of Resolution 17-13 this evening.
I'd move that we approve resolution number 2017-13 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second by Commissioner Jones.
Should we all vote against it just to see what happens at the end?
I don't want to seem that excited.
Is there an AED in the building?
No, absolutely great work. Thank you for everybody, what you've done on this. That's,
Yeah, thank you for your work, Kim.
yeah,
Thank you.
very much.
I had great help.
Yeah, we appreciate what you
We
guys done.
appreciate
for us.
everybody.
Very much.
That's a lot of paperwork.
Oh, yeah, I noticed. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda, most exciting, wildlife fence construction engineer. You know he's gonna be excited.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Who's in charge of that?
I'm John Brown. I'm the Interim Director of Public Works. And if you recall, at the June 22nd Commission meeting, staff presented bids for the construction of the wildlife fence at the Hayes Regional Airport. Subsequently, the City Commission did then accept the bid from Paul Wertenberg Construction at a cost of just over $1.5 million. It would be contingent upon FAA awarding the grant to cover 90% of the cost, and in fact, we did receive the grant today, and I believe it's laying there by the city manager. So that is all. We're all through the FAA process and ready to get started on it now. Inspection and observation of the construction needs to be accomplished according to the FAA guidelines to satisfy the terms of the grant funding and to assure proper adherence to the plans and for quality construction. The city's airport engineering consultant has presented a scope of services and a fee to accomplish the required construction oversight and project documentation. The cost for said services is $133,950. The FAA would reimburse 90% of the eligible portion, and therefore the city's share is $13,395 to be funded out of the airport improvement account. The City Commission is asked to approve the work authorization from Burns McDonald contingent upon the grant being for construction. For professional service contracts in excess of $100,000, the FAA requires that a third-party independent cost analysis be accomplished. This was done by Kirkham Michaels engineers, and their estimate for the cost of services was within less than $500 different or lower than Burns McDonald proposed fee. Based upon the similarity of the Burns McDonald proposed fee and the independent cost analysis performed by Kirkham Michael, staff does recommend accepting Burns McDonald's fee as submitted. The work authorization submitted by Burns & McDonald is a cost plus the fixed fee payment method. Therefore, the city staff would assist in the daily observation and construction to help reduce the costs. So if everything goes well, the final cost could be and should be less than the $133,950 amount. City Commission has the options of approving the work authorization or providing staff with alternate direction. Staff does recommend approving the work authorization and authorizing the city manager to execute authorization number 13. And this is the action requested. If you should have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
I move we authorize the city manager to execute work authorization number 13 with Burns & McDonald Engineers in the amount of $133,950 to be funded out of the Airport Improvement Fund contingent upon FAA awarding a grant for federal funds, which I understand we already have.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Meyer.
John, I understand why they did that analysis because it's a work authorization and it's not necessarily that it was bid, but I don't ever remember us doing that before on a work authorization. Is there a certain threshold or something that we
Right.
have to get that bid?
Right. If the proposed services are over $100,000, then we have to have an independent outside agency perform that cost analysis. For professional service agreements, this is all FAA guidelines. So for professional service agreements that are less than $100,000, I can do that in-house analysis, and I run through through my algorithm to calculate what it should cost, and that's what I usually present to you is my in-house estimate of what it should cost, and then typically what we'll end up doing is if we're more than 10% different, then we negotiate and get that fee down to where it should be. And in this case, it was so close. I mean, it was a fraction of a percentage off. And so,
When's the last time we did a work authorization more than 100,000 where we had to do that?
I believe on the airport terminal remodel, we had a larger one. And I can't remember exactly who did that, if that might have been Alfred Benish and Associates or one of the other engineering firms that do airport work, and they can provide the service.
Okay.
I've expressed my discontent with having to pay these engineering fees for the FAA before, but I also know that it's a must, and it doesn't seem like a lot because our share is 13,000, but overall the taxpayers are paying almost $134,000. So I just, again, I've said this before too, I don't really care what pot of money it is, it's taxpayer dollars, so it's something that we have to do to appease the FAA, but we kind of have our hands tied on this one, I think.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
You have a question, John. I don't know if it's for you or Jacob. You know, over the last few years, we've done a lot of stuff out there where we get reimbursement from the FAA. Is there any way, and that have to be anytime soon, that we can get an update on like reimbursements that we have coming, like how much is still due to us, or do you guys track that, or how's?
Absolutely, yeah, we track that. That shouldn't be very difficult at all to.
I just think it'd be kind of interesting because, you know, we do a lot of stuff where, we pay this much, but it just be kind of nice to know where we're at on some of the projects and, how much we.
Just everything goes out of and back into the airport improvement fund.
Okay.
So that's all nicely, accounted for into one fund, so.
Put something together for you. I'd just like to see it sometime.
Is there a very big delay on getting the money from the
Yeah.
federal government?
No, typically not. They have the online thing.
Submission, I don't remember the name of it, but they have online submission, so it works really slick.
Right. Part of the problem is, like say, we can't get reimbursement until we have the grant in place. So like some of the design costs we paid out, and we can't get that reimbursement. Now we have the grant in place, so we got the taxiway construction grant a few weeks ago, and so we're in the process of submitting the reimbursement now for the design portion of that. But once we submit that reimbursement, I think it's less than a week.
Right.
Oh, really? That's very good.
That's
Working for the
ACA.
federal government, I would say that's probably unusual.
That's good now, because I remember when we built the new terminal, we had a contract with an architect, and it had a provision that if we didn't pay the bill within 30 days, we paid interest. And the feds didn't reimburse us very quickly in those days. And so we ended up paying interest to the architect for the bill. So that's an advance by the government, for sure, if they're paying it that soon.
Yeah. Well, and Commissioner Jones, to your point, that is taxpayers' money, so it's just interesting to see how fast that comes back. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, and I will give you guys a heads up, these all do have to have separate motions. Next item would be amendment. Say that 3 times. 2016-2018 memorandum and agreement between the City of Hayes and Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 48 Inc. FOP.
Try to make it as long as possible.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Erin Giebler, Director of Human Resources. Just like I stated last week, I'm going to talk about all 3 of my agenda items together, but they will each need their own motion made, okay?
Thank you.
So the City of Hayes has completed the meet and confer process with the city's 3 unions. The only section open this year was the wages and administration of the pay plan. The following recommendation costs have been included in the 2018 proposed budget provided to the Commission. The city and the FOP reached a tentative agreement that includes a 2% COLA and a 2% pay adjustment. The pay ranges would be adjusted by the COLA amount, and the FOP agreement, just so you know, covers 44 employees. The SEIU reached the same agreement as the FOP. The SEIU covers 53 employees. I want to point out that this agreement of the 2% COLA and 2% pay adjustment will be the same thing that we bring to you later on this year for the non-union employees as well. Excuse me. The IAFF agreement is a little different. While the IAFF agreement agreed to the same 4% the other unions have agreed to, they asked for it all to be given as a COLA and have pay ranges be increased by that COLA amount. The IAFF agreement covers 18 employees. By providing the full 4% as a COLA, their starting wages are increased additional amounts. But employees do not move up the pay range, resulting in compression. For example, all firefighters hired in 2016, 2017, and 2018 will all be making the same wage. This compression was discussed with the IAFF, and they still asked to proceed with the 4% COLA recommendation. Staff recommends the provided agreed-upon language for the 2018 addendums between the City of Hayes and all 3 unions. Listed here are the 3 motions the city staff is recommending.
If on the IAFF, it's okay if we have a question before. So does that apply, so then is that going to apply to all the what if do we have any firefighters that are not union members?
The way the state of Kansas works, that anyone covered under the union, even if they're not paying union dues, get the same deal.
Okay.
So anyone who's covered under the contract, which for fire would be fire lieutenants and firefighters, they are all getting the same deal.
So then what about like the chief, the assist, like the non-union?
They would get the 2% when we bring it forward, if you guys approve the agreement for the non-union employees, they would get the 2% COLA, 2% pay adjustment.
It might be a little easier to look at it from the point of view of management or labor.
Right.
The
Right.
management is, I think what we're saying is going to be
Right.
treated
Right.
the same as labor.
So
And
I was just curious.
That's
The
fine.
only one that's management's a fire chief.
Fire chief, deputy fire chief, and the fire captains are considered management.
Right.
We have 2 captains.
3, 1 per shift.
Then I would move that we authorize the mayor and city manager to sign the 2018 addendum of the 2016 to 18 FOP memorandum of agreement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Jacobs. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
This is 4-0.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor or city manager to sign the 2018 addendum of the 2016 to 18 SEIU memorandum of agreement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jones, second by Commissioner Myers. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 It's 4-0.
I'll move we authorize the mayor and city manager to sign the 2018 addendum of the 2016-2018 IAFF memorandum of agreement.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jacobs, second by Commissioner Jones, sorry. Got your name screwed up. Oh my gosh. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, Commissioner Jacobs.
I think that you guys do an excellent job and the city management to make sure that all the employees across the board, whether union or not, are getting the same type of benefits and same raises, but essentially, the firefighters chose to put their 4% in cost of living, but it's still the same 4%. So I appreciate the work on that, and I know it's not that I'm not, or that I am anti-union or anything like that, but I value all our employees, and I think they ought to get the same pay raises across the board, whether they're in a union or not, and I think you guys do an excellent job of that, and thank you.
Thank you, guys.
You really do, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Jones, I absolutely agree with you, and I thank the employees for what they did this year to earn those raises. And we all did set out, if we could do it, we were going to give the raises. I'm very happy to say we're doing it. So. Next item on the agenda, review the 2018 budget. Scheduling of the public hearing for the 2018 budget.
All right, Mayor and Commissioners, you have a couple of change pages that were placed at your spot before the meeting. I'm not going to go through all those changes individually. The biggest change was a consensus last week to reduce the Ellis County Coalition by half. That's the largest change that you'll see in any of the change pages. Most of the other changes have to do with how the audit came back for actually the 2016 actuals are changed a little bit. But really, it's nothing significant, so I'm not going to go through all those. This is your opportunity to, if you have any additional changes that you would like to be part of the public hearing, we can do that. Once we've set the public hearing, you can't increase the budget. You can only decrease it. So this is your last chance to actually increase the budget if you wanted to do that. From this point forward, you would have to only decrease. Entertain any discussion?
I'll open up. I know we talked about this last night. I would like to see us fund the 4A state at 100%, same as last year.
And I haven't changed my opinion on that. I really strongly believe that message is important. When we're talking about incremental dollars like we are, I think it's about as much messaging as anything else. I'm firmly in favor of fully funding the request.
And with them having one of the largest freshman classes, I definitely think we're going to make that
On
back.
campus.
On campus.
On
On
campus.
campus. We would definitely make that back, probably week one. But
I think everybody's looking at me because I wasn't here to make my opinion last week, so I'm gonna say that I say that what's in the budget is perfectly fine with me. I listened to the audio. It was a very good discussion. I thought Commissioner Meyer made some very good points about our departments and department heads making the necessary cuts, and I think it sends a bad message to our employees and the department heads to say we're doing our part to make our cuts, but the outside agencies are not. On that note, while we're talking about Fort Hays, I won't bring up what I'm gonna talk about. I'll end with that. I got more, but not about Fort Hays State.
Commissioner Jones, I understand where you're coming from on that. I guess the reason I strongly on this outside agency disagree is this outside agency is doing their part to contribute to our community on sales tax revenue, and I guess I go with Commissioner Jacobs on the message.
I as well understand where you're coming from. The idea that we have pressed our staff into to finding the dollars, if you will, for their raises, I think that's wonderful. But I happen to believe that these people work like that every year.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that they're looking for savings and cost of operation savings consistently. Since I've joined this commission this year, I have been extremely impressed with the staff and the way they work. And I think had you asked them or not, they'd have found operational efficiencies going forward.
And the taxpayers, I think they would kind of hope we were holding them to that every year.
I'm fine with the way it is.
So the next, what I would like to talk about if we're done with Fort Hays is
Well, there's not.
There's no consensus.
There really needs to be 3 in order for us to change that, what's listed here. So, you can always go back and adjust it if you were able to find 3 votes at some point, but at this point, I don't see any consensus that would tell me to change what's been presented. So it will stay the same unless you tell me different.
So on the Downtown Hayes Development Corporation, I'm gonna move that we cut them by 10%. I know that their money doesn't come out of the general fund, and that's the only reason that they didn't get recommended to be cut like the other agencies are. And like I said, with the FAA, it doesn't really matter to me what pot of money it comes out of. The CVB can use that money. We talked about, just the last work session of that, we talked about them trying to develop an app for us on downtown for tourism, you know, that money can be used for an array of different things. So if we're gonna cut the other agencies, I think we ought to cut CVB, not save them just because they're come out of or Downtown Hope Development Corporation, not CVB. Not keep them at the same level just because of the pot of money that they come from. And I know I don't have the support to do that today, but I think when, at the next meeting, when Commissioner Swaller's here, we might reopen that discussion again.
I'd make one comment. I didn't remember staff saying that the only reason they didn't recommend a cut was because it was coming out of a different pot. I don't remember that part of the conversation. If Toby did say that, I'd be interested in having that conversation.
I don't think that was in a public meeting. I think that was in a meeting I had with him one-on-one.
I guess I'll talk then. Everybody's looking around at each other. Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with anything that you said. It does come out of all the same. And honestly, that's one of the things that I would say if you talked to me 3 or 4 years ago before I was sitting up here, that probably frustrates me the most about government is the ability to continue to spend just because it's coming out of a different fund. And I find that very frustrating. Now that I'm up here, I don't want to say I have a different opinion, but I will say that because there are some funds where I definitely agree with that. Like the FAA one really does get me because it's coming from the feds, but I mean, that's still our money that we're spending. So, and that one especially frustrates me because I know that we could get that project done for way less if we didn't have to take that federal money. But the CVB fund is such a conundrum to me because it's not our local tax money. I mean, it's people passing through our community. And I would say, well, if the fund is so flush with cash, then, you know, why don't we decrease our tax rate? But I mean, I think we could collect a 1% guest bed tax and the same number. I mean, our hotel rooms are going to have the exact same number of people staying in them, whether it's 1% or 2% or 5% or 6%. I just don't think that it matters. So I do find that fund to be kind of a conundrum to me. Oh, and the other thing, and this is something that when I was talking with Sarah Bloom one-on-one that I wasn't aware of, and I was kind of glad that she brought it up, and something that kind of changed my mind on DHDC is they've actually are already 6 months into the whole downtown app development walking tour thing, and they already have a contract, and they were already going to spend the $5,000, and that was going to come out of their budget, and so that to me kind of showed that there are, at least for me, that they're working with CVB, and clearly they were 6 months ahead of wherever we were at. So, you know, I'll just leave it at that.
That was just an example of one thing that could.
Yeah, I know. It's just one example. I get it.
I guess my only, and I'm not talking DHCC, is what year was it that they voted in Hayes to be funded from the sales tax for the general fund? Roughly.
05, 04,
It
05.
was 05.
Good. So I guess that's my thing is, you know, you have a area of town that the last couple of years has continued to, it's one area of town has continued to grow in sales tax. And I just think it's ironic that we always want to cut that area when it's the one part of town that's actually growing in sales tax. And I don't care if it's south part of town or north part of town, if it's growing, why are we having this discussion? I mean, isn't that our whole goal up here is to grow so we can do more infrastructure replacement and stuff like that? And that's where I struggle, the big B fund, where the money's coming from. It's, you know, we have people coming to our town, we want to draw people to our town, and we want to continue to have events so people want to come to Hayes. And the whole hang up that, you know, they're getting from this.
Can you contribute all of that growth to DHTC though?
No,
And
I
can
said,
you-
did I say DHCC? I said one area of town. I did not say DHCC one time. I said one area of town has continued to grow over the last 3 or 4 years. And every time we have a conversation, every year, we want to cut it because we don't agree with what they do. And I just think it's, I think it's idiotic, the message we're saying. just my opinion.
That's fine. It's, in my opinion, it's taxpayer dollars.
It
and
is
that-
taxpayers.
The whole purpose of the DHDC was to redevelop downtown and get businesses to come in. They're
Mhm.
not an economic development
No.
group anymore, and
No.
they don't do that. They turn stuff over to the coalition, who probably blunder it even worse, but it is, their purpose, the purpose of the DHDC wasn't to fund them into perpetuity, and that's why we have this discussion every year, and every year we continue to fund them at the same rate. If they're so valuable within the community, they will find a way to sustain themselves, or they won't. And if they die out, then are they really that valuable to our city or our downtown?
I think they are.
Commissioner Jones, I'd like to take a little exception to your comments about they're not economic development related, or they hand it over to the coalition. Where's that coming from?
That came from Sarah Bloom, a question I asked directly to her. What do you do when somebody comes in and they say they want to open a business up here? And she says, well, we get their information and we work with the coalition, not just hand things
Right, they
over
work-
directly, but they work with the coalition, but the coalition does the work.
Well, I'm not sure she meant it exactly that way, but I didn't
And
have that
maybe
conversation.
maybe I took her wrong.
They don't hand it over, they work in collaboration, and that's one thing that DHDC has worked very hard on the last number of years, is collaborating with different organizations in the community, not the least of which is the university, the hospital, anybody that can add to our ability to grow downtown. I think the collaboration between CBB and DHDC has gotten very, very strong, and I think the two directors work very well together. They're getting new accreditation for town and gown. I think the economic impact of everything DHDC does, along with what Sarah does, I would hope that maybe you misunderstood what she said.
Well, I hope I did too, but I don't know. That is the way that I took it, and I do think, and part of it for me is that this is my last budget cycle as a commissioner, and I think that somebody needs to hold their feet to the fire, and the intent is not for them to have been funded into perpetuity. And I think without having this discussion every year, I think that they will continue to be funded into it. And it's not that I don't like what they do, or I don't think they do good things for Hayes. I just don't think that it is taxpayer dollars that should fund them forever.
If it was hurting our local taxpayers, our general fund, I would definitely absolutely 100% agree with you, but I don't believe, I actually think it's helping our local taxpayers personally by keeping businesses in our community, people coming to our community for different events, and people stay in hotels, eat in our town numerous times on the weekend. That's definitely helping our community.
And I think that they would do that without the HDC. People go down there. I went down to, the last time I went to Yellow's, I crossed by I don't remember, but it was 8 cars, and 5 of them were out of state or out of county. And that was just on a regular night without an event, and that's just for Yellow's.
Mm-hmm.
And the downtown is flourishing without events, taking out of account events. But people that live in Hayes are going to spend money in Hayes, the majority of them. So if you have an event and everybody that comes to it is a Hayes resident, or they're going to spend their money in Hayes anyways, then that does absolutely nothing for our tax value out of it. If you prove to me, or you prove that out of 1,300 tickets sold for Wines and Steins or Brews on the Bricks or whatever, then yeah, if you tell me that this many people came to this event that's funded by it, and that's the other thing, they're all alcohol-related events, the ones that make money, and that's not something that taxpayer money should be spent on.
Commissioner Jacobs, do you have, I'm sorry, don't you have some info on how many people, how many counties, states, people come for some of those events?
DHDC does have, is beginning, and really just in even the last year, has been accumulating all of that data, and I'm sure they'd be glad to bring it. I don't have it on top of my head.
I remember talking to a local bar owner, and he said, I hope they do that every weekend because of what it did for his business, so.
But that was one event that was, and also alcohol-related event that they sell tickets to.
I agree with you on alcohol, but you know what, we are Hayes, people like alcohol, that's what it is.
Downtown, I think, demonstrated last year when they brought forth, and I think Representative Phelps was helpful in that, on how many events actually go on downtown that aren't actually alcohol-related. There's a tremendous number, I would say, of all of the events that we can accumulate that are actually done downtown, which are huge numbers. Probably 75% are not alcohol-related. Maybe a little stretch, maybe 70%. But I think we kind of put that to bed, I thought, last year with the events that we demonstrated.
And you're right, because my kids have attended many of those events, so you're absolutely right, there's a big percentage of not alcohol.
The Sidewalk Bazaar, which this year was actually, everything was done by Downtown Hayes promoting it, ended up with 70 different booths downtown last Saturday. It was amazing. I could not believe it. It's like the old days, John. Remember the old days of the Sidewalk Bazaar? And it continues to grow every year. That is absolutely an effort of Downtown Hayes and Sarah Bloom and her staff, along with Melissa at the CBB.
I'll just move the discussion in a different direction for a while, I guess. I always think that it's interesting that, I've been thinking about this for several weeks. You know, we nitpick at what is, I don't even know what percentage of the budget it is, but I know it's a very small portion of the budget, which would be these outside agencies. And I've always wondered, why do we spend so much time on this, such a small part of the budget? And it's such a small part. It's not that the money isn't important. I mean, obviously every dollar is important, but this seems to be the only thing that we ever talk about. And I just always think, why do we spend so much time, money, energy, effort on such a small portion of the budget? And I think it's just because our city management and our employees and our managers and our supervisors, they're doing such a great job on a daily and a weekly and a monthly and a yearly basis, looking for savings and trying to get, do the right thing for the taxpayer. I mean, they presented us with a budget that was almost $200,000 less than the budget that they presented us the year before. They did it with 4% employee raises and the same number of employees. I guess I want to say it just because I want to bring the public's attention back away from such a small portion of the budget back to, this is what, the 12th year in a row that we're going to have a mill levy at 25 and the levy hasn't been raised in, I think it's 12 years. That we cut the budget by $200,000, and when I say we, I really mean city staff. Cut the budget by $200,000. We're facing flat sales taxes, and yet we were able to give everybody raises. We're able to cut the budget. We have
a double A rating.
And we have a double A bond rating. That's a big deal.
Streets are getting fixed. Streets are getting rebuilt. Water's getting delivered. Trash is getting picked up. I don't know. It's not that I don't appreciate these discussions. It's not. I do appreciate these are important discussions. We should have them. It's just, I don't know. Just let's get our eye back on the ball here about all the great things that are getting done for us.
I'm actually very glad that you brought that up, because that was going to be my next point. Exactly, that was going to be my point. I kind of ran on being a money guy and being a budget guy, and this is my third budget cycle, and I've scrutinized every budget that there has been, and the only thing that there is really to scrutinize would be the outside agencies. And that's why
we spend so much time, energy, and effort on it. Because I'm the same way. I go through this thing line by line, page by page, trying to find something to cut, somewhere for us to save, and it's just, this is it.
Every time that I think I find something, and I'll call Toby up and I'll say, hey, why are you doing this, or whatever, like buying three trash trucks in 1 year. Why are we doing that? And they come up with a great answer to it. When it comes to budget, our city staff, I know a lot of it is our department heads and their employees, they do such a great job with the budget that it's really hard to scrutinize that. And again, thank you to the city staff, city manager, assistant city manager, and how you guys have put time and effort into the budget and cut stuff. And like Commissioner Jacobs said earlier, this isn't the raises and the cuts that we made this year. This isn't third year in a row that I've tried to scrutinize and tried to come up with ways and be the genius guy that finds holes in the budget, and I just can't do it.
Well, I think it just comes down to the general public thinks that those ideas should come, I know that me, before I was elected, I would think that it's the commissioner's jobs to come up with.
Yeah, right.
But the fact of the matter is
It's
that
done.
it's the people doing the job day in and day out who know where the cuts need to be made. And here, I think that they're willing to step up to the plate and say, yes, I think this is something that we can do without. So,
Visuals are always so important to me, and I, as a first-year commissioner, I did read every line of this budget. And I do it with great pleasure, Kim, I want you to know, I enjoy it all. But all of the little
not
yellow...
as exciting as bonds.
Not as exciting as bonds. All the little yellow stickies that you see in here were questions that I brought to staff to a meeting. Every single question had an appropriate answer. I had nothing to carry forward. This staff and the department heads are outstanding, and you guys should take that with you every single day. And I think the last thing we should understand is everything does come down to the mighty dollar in the budget, but I want us all to continue to believe how important quality of life in this community is. I think quality of life is what brings new doctors to the hospital. I think they'll tell you that all day long. I've taken enough doctors around the community that when they see downtown, it does make a difference in how they think. The same way with professors, and hopefully we'll continue to grow in that way. There's some other things that are kind of looking into downtown right now that will continue to add to that quality of life, and I think it's really important that we don't take our eye off that as well.
Okay, after that, we need a motion. That's everybody.
I'd move that we set a public hearing date of August 10th, 2017 for the 2018 budget.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Myers, second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Well, report of the Assistant City Manager.
Well, first, I appreciate your comments, and we will try and screw things up a little bit more next year.
Please
So
don't
we
do
can
that.
do that.
Please don't do that.
We do not have the only topic that we have for the work session next week would be another budget review or budget discussion. So if you guys are interested in that, we can do it. If not, we can cancel that.
Yes, I want it. No.
I move
So-
we cancel the meeting
I
next
would
week
too.
for lack of other
Yeah.
business.
We can do that, and I don't have anything else, but we won't, there's consensus there, we won't have a meeting next week, and we will meet again on the 10th for the public hearing.
Correct. Commissioner Jacobs?
I just want to thank my fellow commissioners. The kind of discussions that we have here, and you'll hear me say this over and over, if we all agree, 4 of us can stay home. So I think we have great discussions. I think we represent all the thinking in the community, and I want us to continue to do that every day. I may not agree with Lance, but I sure respect the work he does. So I appreciate all of us being able to bring those things to the table and make some good decisions for the citizens of this community.
Well, I've had my annual training the last 2 weeks at Fort Riley, so I haven't been here, and it's kind of been heartbreaking not to be able to go to a lot of the sesquicentennial.
Sesquicentennial.
Yeah, good
Yeah.
job.
I heard you practicing on the audio. I did listen to the audio tapes of the meetings I missed, and they are very exciting. Almost as exciting as watching them on TV, but there was some great discussion about the budgets, but all these events that they had, the CVB, downtown I know was part of this, just everybody came together and made some great events, multiple events for these, for our 150th birthday, and I wish I could have been there for a lot more of them. I wish I could have been there for the presentation to the lifeguard last night who saved a young girl's life, and that's just so amazing. We live in a great community, and so proud to be sitting up here and just to be a part of it, to be a citizen of this community.
I really appreciate the work on the bonds tonight, and it just makes me think back to hopefully a discussion we'll be having at some point in the near future. I don't think we want to put it off for too long, but looking at some type of, we have projects that could be done. I mean, I think we're doing a good job, but we have street projects that could be done, and thinking about bonding those. So I'll just reiterate that again. And yeah, I wish I could have been here last night for the presentation because that looked pretty neat. I even stayed up and watched the news so I could watch it on Channel 12. So of
Pretty
course,
special.
Brownback had to go and get some ambassador or something or other, so it pushed it back, and I had to stay up 15 minutes later than I thought I should have. But I wish I could have been here for it. I wish I hadn't been working out of town yesterday, so.
Well, we definitely made sure they knew it was from the city commissioners. It's, Commissioner Jacobs, Commissioner Jones, I agree with you guys wholly on that. There's definitely a few things we're never gonna agree on, but if we all agreed, I don't think the community wants us to all agree. I mean, I don't think it's all, I think sometimes we turn a very positive thing into a negative, but it's our job to question, and that's why we're here. So I think the community wants that, but for me as mayor, this has been one of the most, I don't know, exciting, if that's the right word, but started with the birthday celebration, the car show, getting to spend time with the Paraguayans, having several meals. My wife invited me over to our house Sunday, and when you don't speak a language and you have a whole lot of them talking, it was really interesting. Thank God my wife and mother-in-law can speak the language, so I kind of knew what was going on, but it was just an unbelievable week. Getting to be part of, and just many things with the lifeguard thing last night, guys. I'm man enough to say there wasn't a dry eye in this room. I mean, it was just the most feel-good thing that I personally have ever been part of. Half the room was part of the family, the lifeguard, half was a little girl, and just to see the smiles on everybody's faces and the hugs, and Commissioner Jacobs almost made me lose it, looking at her, because it was just an unbelievable thing. And then hearing the Miss Kansas, that story, to me that just topped it all off. That was unbelievable, and I just tell you, and she lives in Hayes, right?
Oh, yeah, she's a Hayes resident and loves it here and loves everything about it.
All I can say is, Hayes, you're pretty awesome.
We're pretty awesome. We're pretty lucky.
Oh, and to my wife, happy anniversary. I'll be there soon. We're adjourned. Thank you guys, everybody. Thank you guys.